Wait a while, you know, let the penny drop in that sense. Now, this is a job out of my local radio station, Radio Kerry. It says, must be a good team player, must be able to take the initiative, must have good communication skills, must have good organisational skills. Now, that's not us at a glance, but it could be, you know, with the right people, you know, working with us, you know. So if somebody sits down one-to-one and says, you know, I can give you these skills with time and with effort, you know, on a one-to-one level, you know, these skills can be ours really, but, you know, you have to have the right people working with you and the right people, you know, giving you encouragement, you know, because we all need positive encouragement in our lives, and that's not just on the spectrum. Now, what's wrong with slip-on shoes? I'm wearing slip-on shoes today. I never learned to do laces. So my point here is we don't learn very much when we're stressed, and maybe in some cases it's best to try again later. Or ask yourself if we can get by with skills and look at this trait for now or forever. You've got to focus on in life what really matters, with mental health, yours and ours, at the top of that list. Time's undoubtedly a great healer, you know, if we give it time. Now, this is me in Rome in 2004. There's an interesting backstory to this. When I was in my last days of secondary school in Manchester, I paid to go on a trip to France, you know, with the school. I paid all my money, you know, thought I'd done everything right. And then the teacher pulls my dad over, you know, at the end of the school day when he's picking up. He says, "Can I have a word, please?" And then teacher says, "Could you please take your son off this trip, you know, as we have no special needs resources to cope with his needs." Well, at the time, my dad explained to me that, you know, he said, "Do you really want to be going on a bus with people that have been giving you bother, you know, in the secondary school environment?" I agreed with him, but the real reason was hidden from me, and so I was writing my autobiography, Does My Ass Look Big in This, in 2012. Shameless plug for it there. And at that time I found out the real reason, and then you know, I put this in because it emphasises the quality over quantity side of things. Because 2 years on from that, when we were in homeschool, me and my dad, we took a trip to Rome together, we did, and you know, that was one of the best times I had, you know, and really, as I say, it does emphasise the message of quality over quantity, and that really, on that trip, you know, that really brought it on to me in that sense. Now, inclusion and integration. Inclusion is when the institution adapts itself to meet our needs. Integration is when we help to meet the needs in the institution. As I said in the documentary I was in 2011, Life with Autism, available on YouTube. Another plug there. It's good to take a step into our world, and we will take a step into yours. Now, you've all seen the episode of Father Ted in the Car. Now, a few hours before that, he had a nice new car. He saw one little dent. He tried to buff it out. 5 hours later, that's the result. Same goes with us, you know, if you see a dent or something you see as an imperfection, don't try and buff it out really, because you know, time is a great healer. You know, the penny's often going to drop when none of us are looking. You know, I can tell you a story about that actually. When I was 10, I couldn't ride a bike, you know, and then one day I got on the bike to practice. You know, when I started riding around, I called into the house to my dad. I said, "Dad, I'm riding," you know, and he came out and he was absolutely gobsmacked. So that is a little story about the penny dropping when you're not looking, or if you're on a bike, you know, it's better to be looking. Now, this is a mock-up of my old business card from the days when I was in genealogy. Don't try contacting any of those email addresses, you know, they're long gone. They are. So, but my point is that, you know, you can turn your passion into profession, as I did with the genealogy, and then when that finished, I turned my passion for doing this into a job, because in 2009 when I started, my dad had already written a book called Asperger Solution. He'd already done some tours of educational centres and that, and then he had a talk in Chile, and the organiser said to him, you know, would your son be okay doing a talk? You know, and I did this talk. It wasn't anything like this. It was about a 10-minute thing, you know, with acetates and that about myself and that. And then, you know, the feedback we got at the end of the night was remarkable, because the written feedback, you know, and one of the written feedback said, "Dump the dad, more Sean." So at that point I was encouraged to go out on my own, really. And, I did my first talk on my own in October 2009, and I did a count the other week of all the talks I've done. I've done about 41 up to this point in about 6 years. So yeah, and you know, it is a real passion and a profession for me, you know, because I love to see people, you know, learning something, you know, people being helped, you know, by what I've shown them, really. So that is one way you can turn your passion into a profession. Now, in terms of taking ownership of my condition, I believe it is important for all autistic children to know about the diagnosis, plan for a whole lifetime, and to build on the autistic strengths at an early age. Along with self-knowledge, strategy and information about what to expect at different stages of life, an autistic person can more fully reach his dreams and avoid disasters. Now, Titanic analogy. Like the great ship, we're just a bit different and have great potential, but we cannot fulfil that potential if we hit the iceberg of mental health problems. 70% of us currently do so, and AS research, according to National Autistic Society, research in Great Britain. Research shows that chronic stress can cause depression, anxiety, OCD, etc. Our iceberg is out there. We know it is out there. We have to adapt to the journey a bit so as to avoid it, and that's a point I couldn't agree more with. Now, this is me in New York in 2009. Now, in terms of my independence, a few things had happened by this time. In 2004, I started travelling over to England from Kerry, you know, to visit relatives and that, you know, on the plane on my own. And then around the same time, I started my genealogy business, so I'd go up to Dublin and that, you know, and first when I got there I was really frightened. I'd get a cab everywhere, and then eventually I got down to a situation where I get a Lewis into the city and walk to where I was going, to South Great George Street, National Archives, and then walk back to get the Lewis again, really. So, you know, I gradually over time built on the confidence I was feeling, and when I came to Ireland I couldn't cross a road, you know, I was out on streetwise, and one of the first things we did, me and my dad, was learning how to cross roads, like look left, look right. And then one day he gave me a text. He was sitting in this place in Chile, and he said, do you want to have some practice crossing the road? And I said, yeah. And then I went out and I did the standard thing, look left, look right, you know, but he knew to take a step back at that point, because he was peering out from where he was sitting, really. He knew rather than going out, you know, and leading me across the road, you know, to do it myself, you know, would be a better in terms of my future learning and everything like that, you know. So I built on it from that, really. So 4 years after the first plane trip on my own, really, 5 years actually, 2009, I went to America. I did with someone who wasn't my dad, my stepsister Katie. We had a great time, and I remember thinking as that was being taken, really, you know, how far I'd come in terms of development and that, you know, and I didn't know at that point that I was going to go further, because in October 2009 my dad decided he wanted to spend more time over in England working and you know, being with his partner over there. So he you know, because we've been building for independence for years at that point, you know, I started living by myself at home, really, and again we gradually built on that, because, you know, when he first went away, really, you know, I'd be calling him, you know, every 5 minutes asking about something, you know, and that. Now, well, I've got it down to a stage where, you know, we only talk every few days really. Most of that's on social media. There's nothing's bad has gone on in terms of our relationship, you know. It's just I've built myself up to the stage where, you know, I only need to talk to him, you know, now and again really, you know, and I think that's the way he wants it really, and that's the way I want it. So, you know, in terms of skills, like travel skills and independent skills, they can be built on gradually from this, you know, taking little steps in that, you know, and then, you know, you don't know how far it's going to go really. So, you know, I hope to develop more in terms of what I'm doing in terms of talks and that, you know, and develop more on a personal level, I hope. So, you know, because I believe your mountain is never fully climbed. There's always further to go in ways you can't realise or imagine, you know, and that's the adventure of it. Now this is an airport research project I did, you know, because having travelled to a lot of airports, you know, I thought to myself, you know, what can they do for people on the autistic spectrum, and that, you know, because and then I did some research into it, you know, and it turns out they do a lot really, but it's just not on the airport's website. So I contacted a lot of UK airports and asked them, you know, what do you do for people with Asperger syndrome when it comes to security and that, you know, and it turns out, you know, they've got a lot of initiatives, you know, that make the process easy. They're not just, the thing is, they're not